My name is Paul Edwards. I'm with Danmark Company, and today's continuing education is a discussion regarding validation of an antimicrobial intervention designed or intended to be used in the produce and vegetable industry. I am recommending that you consult your HACCP plan and also your food safety professional at your facility in order to discuss the particular produce, vegetables that we will be using for this validation study. Some of these produce and some of these vegetables may not be considered, or they may be considered excluded from the new regulations through the Food Safety Modernization Act. So I want to leave that up to you. This is not intended to give you advice on antimicrobial intervention usage in a particular produce or a particular vegetable. The only purpose of this study is to demonstrate a Danmark Company device called the portable dip system. And so what we're doing is we're using a dye here that is a marking dye. It's a USDA marking dye that's available through Danmark Company. And what we're going to do is we're going to validate the coverage on the produce in the use of this dye. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to run some samples and demonstrate to you how a dye can be used for validating a particular intervention. So please bear with me for this portion of the continuing education, which is a dye examination of produce. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go on and show you our container here. This is a container that's available through Danmark Company. As you can see, it's got corrugated and areas here on top that have been drilled so that you can go on and have solution that comes in from all sides. An antimicrobial intervention is only as good as its contact surface. So the more contact surface that you have available, and what I mean is produce contact surface, then the better off you'll be. Now, as you can see here, I've got a carrying case of a produce that's commonly found at your retail location. And what I've done is I've taken these Brussels sprouts and I've kept it in its existing container, and I've put it into our dip container. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone on and resealed these sprouts. I'm going to put it in the center of this container, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a covering in it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it into the dye. Okay, so now I'm totally submerged it into the dye. Pulling it out, see how the dye comes through the top of the container. Okay, this is going to be a little messy, folks. That's why I'm wearing some gloves here so that I can do that, demonstrate that. I'm going to try to rinse out all the available dye so I don't make a total mess on it. I'm going to put this at the lip of the portable dip system that's made by Danmark Company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up now, and I'm going to demonstrate the coverage that we got with this standard container. As you can see, we don't have a real good homogeneous covering on that. I mean, it does have good covering, but it's not homogeneous. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and take these out, and I'm going to go on and just spread them out here on the top of this dip system here, this dip container, and I'm going to go on and remove this retail packaging here. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go on and put the covering on it. I'm going to see if I improve on the coverage of that. Okay, so once again, I'm going to dip it into the dye. I'm going to pull it out. Okay, trying to get rid of the dye there. I can hear little sprouts moving around in there. Now I'm going to go on and take a look. And you see, again, you got maybe a little bit more improved. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, just so that we get a little bit of composition or a little bit of characteristics of everything here, the last thing I want to do is I'm going to go on and dip the whole container without the cover. Okay, and we're going to do that. It's obvious. Now these are floating. Did you see that, folks? Notice how they're floating? In some instances, you're going to have a cover because these things will float, okay? So I want you to notice that these are floating into dye. You see that? See how it's floating into dye? Okay? And so we are getting coverage. So the color doesn't change significantly. So that is an indication right there that sometimes the color isn't completely going to show up on a dye test, but it is remarkably different in color, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and get another untreated broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and I'm going to go on and show you the difference there. Take the time here. See, now you compare those with these here, and you can see the color difference. You see that there? Those are directly out of a container and have not been dipped at all. You compare that to these that have been dipped, and you can see how there's a difference. Here's the ones that are dipped. Here's the ones that are not been dipped. Here's the ones that dipped, and here's not been dipped. Okay, I'm going to throw those back in. I'm going to move the ones that have not been dipped. I'm going to leave it at that corner there. I'm going to do one more dip so that you can go on and take a look at that one more time. Okay, you're watching? Here we go. We dipped them. They're over here in the corner. They're out. Grab them. They've been dipped. Okay, you see that? That's the color dye test. Dye tests have been used throughout processing plants in USDA and FDA for quite some time. My personal experience with using dip studies is I've used them on carcasses, spray carcasses, for where you're looking at pork and beef and poultry. I've also used it in meat parts like primal cuts and so forth. So I'm very familiar with these dyes. They're very helpful, very useful, and they give you a good idea of what kind of microbial reduction that you get. This would be, the sprout would be considered a leafy, and you're going to have some areas that are harder to get to, but by having this design in your dip system, and you can go on and totally submerge it, now you know that even if those are floating to the top, it's still going to be held in place, and you can go on and move them around, go one more dip, bam. I want to show you something that's kind of neat about this design on our system. Okay, I'm going to add water to this system. This is a water-driven system. So that means that when I add water to this system, it will go on and replenish based on the dip. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate that for you. I'm going to add water to the system. Now, I have water running through a metering pump. When I take this dip and I dip it in, listen to the sound difference. Hear the pump going now? Okay, now I want you to notice another thing. Do you see this device right here? That's an overflow. So what that overflow does, it allows suspended solids to go into the drain. So that's the nice thing, and as long as I keep this unit submerged, there is a floating switch, and if you go to danmarco.net, that's DANMARCO.net, you can see what I'm talking about, that lever device. Right now the lever device is feeding a solution of antimicrobial in this. And so what it's doing is it's filling it up until you see the float there. Okay, I mean not the float, but you see that? You see this dye now going into that? Okay, I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to make sure that my valve is open so that goes directly to drain. Okay, it's not open, so that's going to go to drain now. Okay, let's try that one more time. Make sure that does drain. Okay, yeah, you see that draining now? That's what it was supposed to do. It's supposed to drain. Okay, now that same solution will go to a rinse next to it, a potable water rinse, and all interventions have to have a potable water rinse that it operates under. So now what I can do is I can use this to rinse the solution next to it. So I have a potable water rinse, and I have the dip. So now if we see what these sprouts look like after the potable water rinse, you can see that a lot of that dye has been removed, okay? Now, that's the intention of a potable water rinse, is to remove any soils. It's intended to remove any suspended solids. It's intended to remove any kind of organism that may have been killed. And so as you can see over here, you see some of those solids. That happens to be plastic shavings, and it's being removed by the valve there, or the overflow valve. So that's basically what's happening. So what you have is you have your dye here, which would represent your antimicrobial agent. You put it down, you come up, rinse off this. And of course, in a normal environment, it wouldn't be blue dye, okay? It would be clear water with an antimicrobial agent. So please, don't get confused. Your antimicrobial agent that's available through Danmar Company, we have several manufacturers. We have Flaco, we have Proxene, and we have XG940. All of them are approved agents for controlling of food spoilage organisms and pathogens. The same thing here is when we rinse this solution, the water supply will replenish as well. So we have replenishment to our rinse tank. We have replenishment to our antimicrobial tank. So with water running, because this is a water-driven system, when you dip into your potable water, what it's doing, it's going to allow a replenishment of water into your potable water rinse tank. So you're constantly flushing away your antimicrobial agents and all of your suspended solids and so forth. So that's a key thing to the portable. That's a key capability to the portable dip system by Danmar Co. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on and introduce a leafy green. We saw what happened there with the sprouts. So I'm going to go on and get rid of the sprouts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a leafy green, and we'll do the same thing with the dye test. Is we'll demonstrate what that looks like, so you get an idea of what happens there. Okay. We now have an okra product that is once again, I recommend that you get with your food safety professional or your regulatory professional. Make sure that what items are considered excluded from the regulations and what are not excluded from the regulations. The exclusion from the regulation, it could very well be because these products are cooked, and because they're cooked, they are excluded. Okay, once again, I'm going to take these out of the case. I'm going to put them, try to spread it out. See how I try to spread it out on this? Now, you could have multiple labels, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to put too much of your produce or vegetable items in your dip container, because if you force too much in here and they're pushing up against each other, you may not have the separation you're looking for to get that whole contact area. Okay, it looks like my glove's falling apart. So it looks like I'm going to get hit with some dip. But you see how it's gone down now? It's gone down. Okay, uh-oh, we got one that's a runaway okra there. Okay, so I'm going to go on and dip it down with my system running. That would replenish. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse that out. Okay, you see the color of the exposed okra? That's what it would look like under a dye test. Okay, we would take that okra now and we would take it over here to your potable water rinse, run it through your potable water rinse. Okay, now we come back out. That's what it looks like after the water rinse, okay? So that's basically what you're talking about. Once again, I remind you that this is a dye, and you would normally not dye your vegetables or produce prior to shipping them out to your customer. I'm just showing you a validation study here where you would validate your method of treating the surface with an antimicrobial intervention. So that's the purpose of it. I want to mention that because we're dealing with a very minute amount of chemistry, that your exposure to an environment, an intervention, is a concern for most facilities in behalf of their employees. Okay, so what we do at Danmark Company is we validate concentrations that are very safe and very acceptable for the proximity that you're with the employee. So we have what's called a air quality monitor, and the air quality monitor would be used as a employee safety tool. And of course you would have gloves. Now the gloves can come up to the elbows, or the gloves can come up waist high, but what you want to do is you just want to make sure that when you submerge, that your glove protects that surface. Now unfortunately this latex glove fell apart, so I wouldn't recommend the manufacture of this latex glove. But basically that's what you would do, okay, is you would make sure that your dipping is at a level that you keep your hands bare skin away from the surface, and then you would go and dip, and that's how you do that. Okay, we're going to try a couple more vegetable produce. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and get a couple of apples, oranges, stuff like that. Once again, consult your regulatory folks regarding what needs to be treated, because it's considered an at-risk item versus a non-at-risk. So that's something that you would want to consider with your folks there at your regulatory side. Now we've got oranges, apples, looks like a pear, oranges, apples, and a pear. I'm going to dip this. See how it goes underneath, okay? We got a small little, this is our small dip container. This is our small dip container. Once again, you see the coverage of that. Okay, you see that? Beat it up a little bit, but that's your covering there. I'm going to come over here now, and I'm going to go to your rinse. You just dip your potable water rinse. Every time you drop this, it'll rinse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the pump back on so that you can listen to the system at work. Okay? So here's your pump. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and... You hear the pump? It's pumping replenishment antimicrobial agent right now as we speak. Okay? As long as you want to leave it under, it's going to do that. Okay? Now when you pull it out, the float rises, and now you don't hear that click, 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 click. You can increase, depending on your water volume, you can go on and increase, and water pressure, you can increase the amount of flow rate, the replenishment flow rate. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you, okay? I'm going to trigger the flow rate device. Listen to how many clicks your approximate clicks per every 30 seconds. Click, click, click. That's almost one click every second, isn't it? Click, 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 click. Now I'm going to lift this out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the flow rate of water to the pump. Okay, I'm going to reduce it significantly by about over half. Now listen to the amount of times it clicks. I'm pretty much the same there. You hear that? There you go. You can lower the volume going to the pump. Click, click, click. Before it was click, 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 click. Now it's, can we get it to go slower? Let's try. Hear that? Click. Click. And that's all done by volume. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my potable water rinse. Okay, this is rinsing off all your antimicrobial agent. Stick it in here. Same thing. Okay? There's no clicks here. You know why? Because potable water bypasses the pump. Are you noticing that? That because the potable water bypasses the metering pump, you're not metering anything in, so you're just getting pure potable water going through to your potable water tank. You shouldn't be hearing any clicks. Okay? I'm going to increase the flow to the pump now. Now listen to this. Okay? Hear that? That's your pump metering chemical, and now I'm in the antimicrobial dip tank. Now check this out. I come over here to my potable water rinse. No clicking. Okay? Why? Because it's potable water. But obviously, listen closely. You hear that? I'm going to move the camera slightly over to that potable water area there because I want to demonstrate that a little bit further. There's my... Do you see that lever there, folks? See that lever here? This is the floating lever I'm talking about. When I push it down, it's adding potable water. Okay, of course I've really put a lot of dye in there, and so it's discolored it. But remember that your antimicrobial solution would be clear, and your potable water would clear. But you see that? When I push this down, that's allowing water, replenishment water. Okay? When I let it go up, it closes out. Now there's always a light amount of volume coming through this, okay? But you see, the light amount of volume that's coming through there, that's making its way through there, if you notice really closely here, this is starting to drain out. You see that little twirly thing there? This is draining out. Okay? So you can balance this by your flow rate. You can balance that your discharge level and your water added level are about in balance, but not overkill. Okay? So we just looked at some produce that are apples and oranges. You see all the dye is gone. So we've rinsed that out. I'm gonna try a couple of more things through the dye, and then we'll be done. You can visit danmarco.net and learn more of our capabilities and the pieces of equipment that we have, so that you get an idea of what's available to you. I'm going to do a couple more things here. These are a bundle of kale. Once again, I want to recommend that you consult your regulatory people regarding certain types of produce that or vegetables that would be covered under the reg, but what I want to do is I want to kind of give you an idea with kale what the coverage looks like. Depending on whether you would cook this product or not, you could be, this would be an issue with the coverage. Okay, did you guys see that? I took the kale and I put it in the container and I dipped it all the way and submerged it. Okay, when you submerge it, you can move it around, let that antimicrobial work its way around there. Okay, I'm going to go and rinse it out now. I'm going to pull this out. Take a look at that. See in the grooves there? You see that that coloration there? I'm going to move my camera a little bit so you can take a look at it. You hear the water in the background going crazy. It's like, wow. See that? See that discoloration? You see the ink in there? You see the ink there? Okay, I'm shaking it around, but you see, even in those hard to get to places with the Danmar portable dip system, you can see where it's getting some good coverage on this kale here. Really, really nice job here. Now let's see how well the rinse step works. That's what the kale, I just stuck it in there like that. Now let's see how well it works when I dip it. Okay. I'm going to go and turn this off. And I'm going to dip this here. You could have a flow rate that exceeds your ability to, and I haven't been paying attention, but I have discovered that. You could have so much water being introduced to the system and you don't have enough exit ports. And so what happens is that the amount of water that is replenishing is greater than the amount of water that's discharging, and you could get a little messy situation going on. So I recommend that you really work with your system and you balance it out. Make sure that your inlet water supply and your outlet water supply is about the same as far as discharge is concerned. Okay, you want to look real close at that. This is after dip, and once again, I want to just let you know that it's going to have some residual dye. A lot of that residual dye is based on the fact that we've contaminated our potable water in such a way that it's hard to reduce everything. But as you can see here, we're looking at a pretty nifty program there. The last thing I want to show you is, and we're going to use the same cover, but I want to show you that we do have a larger dip container, so you're not relegated to just that small one. You can get this second one. This is called our large container. It's designed specifically for this system. As you can see, all the perforated side, that's pretty nice. You see that? Okay, now once again, I'm going to dip it. Check that out. It goes all the way submerged. The large container goes all the way submerged. So you have the small one, and you have the large one available to you, okay? Okay, what can I put in the large one? Well, let's see. Let's say you've got a lot of stuff that you want to throw in here, a bulk amount of items. So I'm going to go on and find me some bulk amount of items here to throw in. Maybe what we haven't done yet. We haven't done this here. What is this? Okay. You guys recognize that? Throw some of these in here. What is this? Cabbage? Cauliflower? What is this? Somebody tell me out there, because I'm really, when it comes to sending, my wife sends me to the store to buy stuff that she needs, and so I always tell her, sweetheart, you're going to have to tell me what it is, because I'm going to have to look for it. Here's some crisp greens. I'm going to put some crisp greens in here. Give you some idea of what to expect from a blend of greens. Okay, we're going to throw some greens in there. give you an idea of what some greens would look like, and also these. Okay, I'm going to go in there. Whoa, look at all that floating debris here. The greens just really came through the bottom of that, so you know, that's something to consider, is the size of your item that you're submerging, okay, and how much of it is going to come on the top there. Maybe even causing a plug, so you got to be real careful of the items that you choose to put in here, but because of the holes, okay. Here's the coverage on this one right here, okay. That's pretty much a coverage there from the dye. You see the dye moved its way in there. Kind of curious of maybe some of the areas in the middle here. Look at this, okay. Not completely. Okay, remember, we're not intending this to get into the stem system, just on the outside. But you see that area there? You see that? It did get into the stem area on the inside there, because when you totally submerge something in there, you totally submerge the vegetable, it's going to get covered, okay? So that's what we're seeing there. Let's take a look at here, see if we can see it here. Yep, we're seeing it here as well, okay? See it surround the stems there? See that? It's not going to be in the meat or in the core structure of the produce. It's only going to be on the outside surfaces there. If this is a surface decontaminant, let's take a look at in here. Maybe a little bit in there, but not a lot. But we could very well have a little bit in there, but not a lot. It's not intended to get 100% of it. A dip process, you know, we want it to get as best as we can, but sometimes we're limited as to what we can get, okay? And an antimicrobial intervention is designed to get microbial reduction on the surface that it's looking at, okay? Well, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. You've been listening pretty good here, and I really appreciate your time. Just remember that with Danmark Company, we provide you technical supports. We do our validation studies so that you get an idea on a real-world microbial knockdown. Some of the things that we... an antimicrobial and a rinse, okay, its intended purpose is to knock down loads that are not too numerous to count, okay? So if you have a significant organism, a significant cross-contamination, okay, that's obvious, okay, proximity to maybe some fecal material, what you want to do is you want to go on and eliminate it. Don't use an intervention like this to try to wash off a too numerous to count bacteria load. Okay. What you want is you want to know, you want to have normal operating scenarios for intervention reduction, okay? And that's what the purpose of this program is to introduce an intervention that will not take you from too numerous to count to non-detectable. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to take a very small amount of organisms and reduce them to a level where it does not become a health risk or health consideration. That is the purpose of an antimicrobial intervention. There's many people and many opinions as to what an antimicrobial intervention will be, but we're very conservative, okay? If you have close proximity to possible fecal contamination, you need to get rid of the product. Don't try an intervention like this to solve that problem. That's a pretty big problem, okay? Well, I thank you for your time and your interest, and my name is Paul Edwards with Danmark Company, and I am available to answer any questions you might have regarding the equipment and regarding our techniques that we use and supporting documentation that you could use for the use of these products that we talked about. Thank you very much and have a great day.